You're listening to Two Bobs, conversations on the art of creative entrepreneurship with David C. Baker and Blair Enns.
David, are you bored?
If I was, I wouldn't tell you, because it means you just give me some of your shit work to do.
I'm really fascinated by this topic. When I read it, I thought, wow, this is actually good.
And David came up with it. What a surprise.
But then my second reaction was, oh, are you writing this for me? Because the topic is when you need something different from running your firm.
Yeah, we just spent 2 years of podcast episodes talking about your ants in your pants. And we finally got that solved. Now you're fixed.
I changed the business model, and now I'm engaged by the business again. I was just saying to the team the other day, I'm so excited about the change to the business model, but I'm a little embarrassed that I have to keep changing the business model to stay engaged. I don't know. So this is about me, isn't it?
This is about you. Yeah. I got these notes from your people.
So you were going to change the title from When You Need Something Different from Running Your Firm to what?
Something about when you are less engaged than you should be. Yeah.
So the topic is the owner of the business gets a little bit distracted, bored with the business, and they feel like they need something else to do. Is that right? Like what to do in case of that emergency, break this glass? Is that what we're doing?
Well, they haven't found the solution yet. They're just in this indefinite period of lack of engagement. And that's, I think, I don't know for sure, but that's probably the most difficult time to be leading a firm when you're unengaged, because you cannot hide that. So you figure out why and then try to solve it. And you have to be somewhat transparent as a leader, but you can't drag your people along this journey with you, because that's not what people want in their leaders. They do not want you to tell them all the time about your lack of engagement, because that's just not the signal you need to send. But on the other hand, you've got to be really honest about it with yourself, because you can't hide that lack of engagement. You just simply can't. So maybe you need to shake some things up, which will make it a little more difficult in the short term, but might save your firm. There's no specific reason I thought about this. I don't have a particular client in mind. It's not about you. It's not about me. I just see this from time to time, and it feels like we need to talk about it.
Okay. So it's not about me.
It's not about you. Sorry. Are you still interested, though?
Yeah, I'm actually deeply interested in this. I have a couple of friends. They're married to each other. They just left yesterday. They went to Bhutan to go hiking, but she's a school principal and she's taken a year off. And then I have another friend, she's a school teacher. She's taken a year off. But my friend who's married to the principal, he's taken 2 months off. She's got the weight of the world lifted from her. She's just so like free and happy right now. And he's got this extra weight on him because 2 months isn't enough. So he had to cram all this work in at the beginning and he's going to make up for it at the end.
Yeah.
I think we did an episode on sabbaticals, didn't we?
We did, yeah. And there's a really good article on the website that Jonathan wrote on sabbaticals too. He took one. I haven't taken one yet. I really want to take one. Have you ever taken one?
No, but you and I and a couple of other professional friends were always telling each other, you need a sabbatical. None of us has the guts to do it.
Well, if I had a bigger firm with people that could fill in for me, that might be easier. But yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're getting distracted here. You've got a list of, is this right, 16 pieces of advice?
16 alternatives sort of to just jumpstart your brain. So if you decide that whatever it is that got you here in the first place, so you kind of look back at, when did I start feeling this way? And what happened? Is that when, I had that divorce, or I had that health issue, or one of my parents died or something, and you start to make those connections and you decide, now I understand this a little bit better. I can probably pull it back from the brink, right? But if that clarity doesn't come, then what you might do is just accept the fact that this shit is not getting better. I need to shake things up. So I'm just trying to give people some, not specific ideas, even though they are specific ideas, more just categories to think about how they might find that new level of engagement. Or it could just be fear. I mean, I remember in March of 2020, when we're still wiping off UPS packages because we think that's how we can catch this thing, for 6 weeks, I thought my business might be done because I was traveling every week somewhere, sometimes 2 places a week. And that terror forced me to reinvent the firm. And now I'm more engaged than I ever have been, except with a couple clients, which will remain nameless, but more engaged than ever. So sometimes it's not just lack of engagement. Sometimes it's just terror or a business model that has to be reinvented because of the way the world is changing. Here we are recording this in October of 2022. And what's going to happen with the world economy? Who knows? I mean, my instinct tells me it's not going to be nearly as bad as 2008 and 9, but there might be some things coming up that would require you to rethink your business. But this is a little bit deeper. This is more about your personal relationship with the firm, where you feel like you have lost some engagement, and whatever that reason is, it can't necessarily be fixed. And so you need to shake things up. So if you're in that boat, just don't take these as gospel ideas. Just think of them as illustrations of some things you might do.
Okay, so you're feeling weary or bored with the business or distracted, and you want to do something else.
Yeah, but you don't want to throw everything away necessarily.
Right. You don't want to shut it down and go be a monk or something. So these are some suggestions on things you might do that will help keep you engaged.
Yeah, and the first one is just a product idea. It seems like every one of our clients would love to, like if they're a software engineering firm, they want to create an app that really takes off. Or if they do product packaging, they'd like to sell their own products on Amazon, or maybe a greeting card company they want to start. And these are all real things that all my clients have done, right? But everybody dreams of doing something like this. And the problem is that they combine it with their expertise/service business. And those two things can't be combined very well. First of all, you got to use other people's money to do this. Don't tell them I said that, but you really need to use other people's money, and you need to understand distribution and marketing and so on. Like, the least important thing is the idea, but sometimes if you hook up with the right people who have the money and the expertise, and you do this separately, by God, maybe you ought to be developing a product. If I had the time, I could probably think of 50 firms that have gone down this path, and they would never want to go back to what they're doing now, which is helping other people build or promote their products. They want to do their own. And I just think this has got to head the list, right? You know, clients have done this.
Yeah. In fact, we did an episode on this called Be the Client You Want to See in the World, where we talked about just that. Launch your own product of some kind. Be the client. So we're talking about when you need something different from running your firm. You've got 16 different things that people might consider. First one is go all in on a product idea, but not with your money.
Yeah, right.
Second one on your list is merge.
Merge. Yeah. So you know in your heart you are done with this business, but it's really wasteful to walk away from it. So just acknowledge that in a traditional sale, you're going to have to stay around and perform during the earn-out to hit your target and so on. You're not really shedding all the entrepreneurial risk. You're not de-risking it so much. So just merge with another firm and figure out some way to walk away with something. Or maybe if you're not going to walk away, at least you can shed the parts of your job that you hate. Maybe it's managing people, or maybe it's new business, or maybe it's creative direction, or maybe it's the technical engineering, or whatever it is, and just focus on something that you really do enjoy doing, even if you don't even continue to be a principal in this scenario. So if you're thinking about a merger with somebody, you don't need to go searching. This is some other firm that you already have in mind. I think a merger is something that needs to be done super carefully, because they can be really bad or really good. But if they're done for the right reasons and with the right people, they can really re-energize you. And some of you in great partnerships know that. You understand that. So in a merger, it's not so much about preserving the value in the business, although there's that too, but it's really about finding a partner that you're going to enjoy being in the trenches with. And I think that's worth exploring for some people.
I like how you framed it as viewing it as a step toward an exit, maybe. Mm-hmm. It certainly makes an exit easier when you have a partner like that. And you made the point, you probably already know who this firm is. The head of that firm is probably a strong operator. You serve similar markets. I like that idea too. You see a lot of tired agency principals, and you want them to A, either find the excitement, or B, find a way out. This is an opportunity to possibly do either. Either of those options might be available in this suggestion of merging.
You and I could merge. Could we ever work together?
God, no.
Yeah, I don't think so. That was a bad idea before I even said it.
I mean, yeah, of course we could.
Yeah, right.
I think you and I can spend about 4 or 5 days together.
And then we're done?
Well, I don't know. Like, we've gone on vacation. I remember like a year into the pandemic. Do you remember when you and I were asked to do a lot of speaking? Mm-hmm. And we were asked to do a lot of like, hey, let's get the two Bobs to come and talk. And so it was all done remotely. And it was like, at some point I remember thinking, okay, I love David, but does he have to be in every talk that I give? Does the market think we're joined at the hip?
I know. People are always asking me to explain some of your shitty principles. It's like, no, that's his. That's not mine.
All right. So go all in on product idea, merge. Third, go get a job.
Take a job on the client side. Yeah, a real job. You started this firm because you wanted to be your own boss. Then you woke up and you realized now instead of one shitty boss, you've got 20 of them. Or you started it because you wanted to make more money. That's probably not true. Or you didn't want to work as hard. That's definitely not true. In the past, you never would have suggested this. There was some switching between the two enemy sides. You would start somewhere, you decide, oh, this isn't for me, you join the other side. But now there's just no stigma between bouncing back and forth. And sometimes taking a job on the client side where you have steady pay, you build your experience, which can be used in your next entrepreneurial venture. You relieve yourself of some of this pressure. It's almost always going to be one of your clients. And I think there's real room for this sometimes. Not for everybody. I am completely unemployable. You are too, by the way.
No, I know it.
But some people are employable.
Are you saying shut the firm down or just have others run the firm for a while you go work for a client?
Yeah, more the latter. Let somebody else run it for a while you're gone for a year or something.
Oh,
yeah.
Because I was going to ask you, I'll round down and say that you've worked with 1,000 firms. I know it's more than that. Of those 1,000 firms, we'll take a tenth as a sample. Of those 100, how many of those owners did you think, if not outright say, you know what, you should just go get a job?
Oh, probably 3 or 4%, I would guess, something like that.
Okay, I thought it'd be a bit higher than that. Yeah, maybe that's about right.
Yeah.
This came up at Win Without Pitching the other day. We're talking about a client. I just said, yeah, I feel like that person should just go get a job.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't come up a lot, but it's not never. Okay, so product idea, merge, get a job on the client side. Be a stay-at-home parent is number 4 on your list.
Or parent caregiver. If it's not for a child, maybe it's for a parent. We are so driven to climb from one experience to the next, and it always has to be bigger and better and more money and more. It's like, well, not necessarily. There are certain things that are really important to you, including your family, either your younger or your older family. I just think we ought to be making more courageous choices when those things happen. Both of my parents are gone, and my father-in-law is gone. My mother-in-law is in her upper 80s, and we take turns caring for her, although most recently she's been in the care of her other daughter, not Julie, my wife. And, there's a time when that might happen. I don't know, but it ought to be an option. We shouldn't view a career, especially if we're running a career well, where we kind of keep debt down. We've got a decent cushion. Maybe you need to take 6 months off or 12 months off or whatever. And if you have a partner, well, this is a little bit different equation because you could just leave for a year, stop your compensation. You still get distributions, but no compensation. And then your place is there when you come back. We ought to be a lot more flexible about what we're doing, the decisions we're making.
You're listening to Two Bobs, conversations on the art of creative entrepreneurship. Your hosts are David C. Baker, author, speaker, and advisor to owners of expert firms, and Blair Enns of Win Without Pitching, the sales training and coaching program for creative entrepreneurs. For more information, go to twobobs.com. If you find this podcast helpful, please help us by telling a friend and rating us on iTunes. Thank you. Now back to David and Blair.
Next on your list is take a sabbatical, but this one of being a staying-at-home parent or parent caregiver, it's not really a sabbatical, but it is stepping away from the business to focus on something else. And even though that focusing on something else might be a lot of work and might be intensive, it's still a break from the daily grind, the tedium, if that's what you're experiencing.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a sabbatical where you're getting other things done. You're focusing your energy on other things. It's not just pure for the sake of enjoyment or restorative reasons.
Right. And this next suggestion is a sabbatical, and we've done an episode about it. Jonathan's written an article about it. We ought to do more of this. In fact, I think if I were going to start a firm again, I would have a mandatory sabbatical policy, maybe an extra month off for every 4 years or something. I'm not sure what it would be. But I think it's good. It's a good thought, and we ought to do it more.
All right. What else do you have up your sleeve?
Next is 4-day work week. If you've got enough engagement starting Monday morning and you run out around Thursday, well, just quit working on Friday or limit your hours. What specific elements about work wear you out? Is it planning for meetings? Is it meetings? Is it phone calls? Is it new business? Whatever that thing is, maybe you need to stop doing it and find some other solution for it. But I think you can add years of engagement to your work life by just working less. And you've got to be very specific about that. You can't just say, I'm going to work less. If it's a small firm, maybe what you need to do is schedule all of your long weekends off and be very public about it so that, okay, you've already got the shame covered with everybody. Now you might as well just do it since they know you're leaving. But a shorter work week, maybe it's just 5 days still, but shorter hours, I don't know. But 4-day work week seems perfect. I switched to that years ago because I found that it gave me the mental energy to do more writing. I work more than 4 days, but I only take phone calls on 4 days. That's what I think of as work. Yeah.
This isn't one of those spoof episodes, is it? And you haven't told me.
No, it's not.
Okay, just checking. Yeah, I like that too. I don't schedule things on Friday. I know at least one other team member doesn't schedule things on Friday. We're still working. Not always. It's an interesting idea.
Do you still make your team turn timesheets in when they're on Friday?
Yeah, if you come in on Friday, you're doing timesheets.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, next on your list.
Do something really radical. So most of you are getting worn down in part by all the standing meetings you have, which made perfect sense when you started them. But now you don't know how to get out of them.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. When I look at people's calendars, if they happen to share their screen and they're saying, hey, can we meet such and such? We're comparing calendars. Like, what? I could not live like you do. So take your calendar back or disband your executive team. There are 2 people on your executive team that shouldn't be on there anyway. We know that. They never contribute, but you don't know how to get rid of them because of whatever. So maybe just disband the whole thing for 3 months and see if you miss it and then start back up. Or say, listen, I'm only going to have 3 standing meetings a week. So y'all, we need to make these really valuable. If you don't deserve a spot on one of these 3 meetings a week, then we're going to ditch it, right? Make it a little bit more, not scheduled, but just more impromptu. I think the calendar thing is a big one. I haven't done any research on this, but when I think about how busy people are from day to day and how much time they are in meetings, there was a really interesting article, and I think it was Forbes, that said the average person in corporate America spends a third of their time in meetings, which I thought it was actually going to be higher than that. But surely some of those meetings are not all that useful. So you could take some of your time back by just simplifying your calendar.
Next time you find yourself thinking, what if I did this? Just go ahead and try it. Do it. Like, what if you didn't schedule anything for a month? And if your business goes under, don't blame me. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah. I've thought the same thing about a to-do list. If it's really important, I'll remember. I haven't had the courage to ditch my to-do list. But so another idea is to switch firms with a colleague for a month. I've been suggesting this for years, and not a single person has taken me up on this, which is pretty much like the rest of my advice to you people. But this would make perfect sense. Somebody you trust, and obviously their family, your situation would have to be such that they could travel. Just switch firms for a month and give them complete access and just see what they learn that they could apply to their situation, but also see what they could tell you because there's a fresh set of eyes on things that you're not used to. I wish somebody would take me up on this one and write a report on it.
David, there's not many times when you're talking when I'm like, have my head in my hands and I'm shaking no, but this is one of those times. How would this ever work?
Let's do it. Let's you and I do it.
God, no. I wouldn't let you near my people. And I would wreck your business in a month and enjoy it.
It's sort of the same idea at a lesser level would be a round table where there's complete transparency about everything you do. So maybe you find another principal of a firm and you just start sharing everything and see if you can develop this informal sort of partnership relationship where you're advising each other. It just might raise your engagement level.
Yeah, like we might do this where I say to you, David, I'm going to let you give me one piece of business advice and I will act on it without questioning it, no matter what it is.
Oh, man.
And then vice versa.
I would not recommend that.
Now, this is a terrifying idea.
Yeah.
Sell to an employee.
Yeah. So you've made money. You've got a decent retirement plan. You think it's a long shot that you're going to sell it to somebody else. You've got this number two that's entrepreneurial. You trust this person. They've demonstrated their commitment to the firm. Just see if they're an entrepreneur. Have them apply for an SBA 7A loan, they're called.
What's that?
I think that's up to $5 million or something, and they can buy the whole firm. And the SBA, the Small Business Administration, funds it. I think they fund 100% of it. It's called an SBA 7A loan. Then sell it to them. And if that doesn't work, and if you still want to do it, then carry the note yourself. Just loan them the money. You may or may not get paid. But if you are not engaged in the firm, your firm is going to slowly go down. And the alternative is that you're going to create this leadership vacuum as you step out of the firm. And this other person will, in effect, be running it without the legal recourse to actually run it, and they're not on the hook for anything, and so on. There's a lot of this stuff happening, and a lot of it is really good. It's really good. It's a way to preserve the firm, keep the jobs, keep the clients happy. You make some money. There's an exit. You get to tell everybody on LinkedIn that you've exited a firm, and they think you got really rich by it, and you don't correct them, and that's how that works.
Sell the accounts to someone else in a fire sale.
Yeah, so you don't have somebody to transition it to. You can't find a place to merge. Just sell the accounts to somebody. So say, hey, I think I'm getting out of here. I'll introduce you as the next person. This works particularly well for like a HubSpot sort of a firm where there's a system architecture to it. And you pay me X amount for some percentage over the time that you keep this client. It's much better than kind of walking away. But some of you are so unengaged that you ought to do something really radical or something else is going to happen to you. This would be a last resort sort of thing in an M&A world, but it's better than just walking away from the firm.
All right.
This next one you're going to love, building a personal brand.
No, you skipped one.
Oh, did I? Oh, solo consulting route. Yeah. So let's say you're 8 people and you're the board principal, not engaged. You love selling. You love the work itself, the strategic work, but you don't like all the stuff that follows on. So split the firm off and let all these people stay together under a different ownership, and you just be a solo consulting firm with relationships that sort of funnel the implementation work to multiple firms, maybe just the one firm you left if you have an agreement like that. But a lot of you have inadvertently become fantastic advisors and consultants. And there isn't any education for that. It just happened because you're the right kind of person. You're bold, you're articulate, you're observant, and you have everything it takes to be an advisor. Well, some of you ought to just do that and sell your thinking for a living rather than your doing for a living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And then we get to my favorite, build a personal brand.
Yeah. This is something you really believe strongly in.
Did we do a podcast on this?
We did, and you hated every minute of it. But one of the things that's changing in our world is that people are making decisions around which firms to use, not just based on capability and expertise, but also trust. So there is room for you as the leader of a firm. Now, this is not so much true of somebody who is not an equity partner, but if you are an equal or primary equity partner in a firm, there is room for you to build your personal brand with, say, a book or a whole speaking career or whatever it is that you would do, or maybe it's your own podcast or something. There's room for that. And this can really energize you. And it does two things. It energizes you. Does three things, actually. It energizes you, which really helps. Second, it forms a new business funnel, sort of a lead gen machine. And third, depending on how well it goes, it can become a bridge to your next life, where when you disengage from the firm, now you have a pretty lucrative writing, speaking, maybe advising career in the middle of that. And some of you are really well poised to do that. And it doesn't mean you have to leave your firm. It just means that you have a slightly different approach to it. There's this firm that's led by this person who up until this point has tried to stay invisible, but is now intentionally building a personal brand.
I have a friend who's just done that recently since COVID, went from out of the implementation business, let all the staff go. They're in the events business, so basically is now a solo consultant, building his personal brand, speaking, writing, loves it, says he's never going back. And I wonder, I've heard this before. I've heard people fantasize about, this would be so much easier to do without employees. And then I say, yeah, it's even easier without clients. No employees, no clients. Doesn't that sound like heaven?
Dual heaven.
I know you've encountered people like this who just think, okay, that's it. I'm going solo. How many of them end up building machines again, adding people back? Or do you think most of them stay solo consultants?
In my experience, they don't add the team back. They either fail and go somewhere else and get a job, or they succeed. It's a little harder than people think. If you've been selling activity, to sell thinking without a team takes a unique, different view. But you could actually be a speaker and author without doing any advising. Lord knows a lot of people do that.
That's consulting without clients.
Right. Consulting without clients, right?
Yeah. The name of my 5th book. The next one, this is 13 on a list of 16 things to do when you need something different from running your firm. Start writing, even if it's just for yourself. I love this. This is such good advice because it can lead to many of these other things that we've already talked about.
Yeah. In fact, you probably don't want to make a commitment to make this public. It could just be your own private sort of diary so that you can be totally honest with yourself. And then depending on what happens, you could decide to start making it public. I'm not talking about writing for publication. I'm talking about writing for clarity. And I don't know of any better solution there other than just talking with somebody who is really observant, knows you well, and is not afraid to be candid, objective with you. That and writing just to get clarity would be a really good way to find out what's going on and hopefully discover your own engagement level rising again.
Yeah, listener, look up morning pages as a way to get going on that. 3 left, go back to school. Shudder.
Not real school.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about like a week-long course at Harvard,
Harvard.
or Yale, and then put that on your LinkedIn profile so that people don't know that you went to bumfuck university.
You can't say that.
It'll help your career too. I don't think those things actually help all that much in terms of your learning, but they can be engaging.
Well, stimulating, right? You go there, you're in a new environment, a bunch of smart people downloading a whole bunch of stuff. I think that's a great suggestion. Now I'm thinking.
I did a week-long one at Harvard one time. Have you ever done one of those things? Or you didn't get in probably?
Nah, they wouldn't
let you in
no.
yet. I was just blown away. I found it really interesting. It was very intimidating at first because you had to make a presentation every day defending how you would have solved something using Harvard's case study theory. But what blew me away was having lunch every day with the graduate professors and realizing, wow, I'm here in the real world trying to solve challenges that are a little tough. And that's a lot harder than solving problems in an academic setting. And I don't put that on my LinkedIn profile, but it really did give me a year's worth of additional engagement. I enjoyed it.
All right. Second last piece of advice.
This is for you.
Yeah. Get a fascinating hobby that's so interesting it forces boundary hugging at work to preserve your focus on it. What do you think of? Which hobby of mine are you thinking about? Or you're saying I don't have one?
You only have one hobby, and it's actually a very dangerous one, and that's experimenting on your body until you wear it out and it fails.
When you said to start writing, I was laughing. My wife said to me the other day, you should write about all this health things that you do with your body.
Right.
And I said, yeah, I have a blog. It's never been published, but it's going to be called Out of My Domain. And I've written the first post. It's called That Time I Got Arthritis. So I could mirror those two things.
Yeah, this is your hobby. Part of what happens when you lose engagement with your business is that you shouldn't have been looking for engagement in your business in the first place. That's sort of the point here, that it is a job. It's okay if parts of it you don't enjoy. There have to be enough parts of it that you do enjoy, and you have to feel like you're good at what you do. But that should take you through some of the rougher spots. But I really feel like you have to put a boundary around your job so that you have time to pursue other things, which sort of balances the deep focus that you have. So in your hobby, you should be doing all kinds of strange things to learn. And then the other thing is that your job needs to be generating enough income so that you can waste it on a hobby. Because a hobby is expensive, not always, but sometimes it's expensive. It needs time and it needs money. And some folks are stuck in this mess because they don't have much of a life outside of work. And I feel like the solution is to not just make your business more exciting, but maybe to have really exciting things outside of work, so exciting that you kind of get pissed off when your job interferes with it. That's the mark of a great hobby.
Yeah, I've heard you give that piece of advice for years. I think it's really strong. And the last thing on your list of 16...
This is yours. You got to talk about this one.
Play Blair's constraint game. Pretend that you have no clients. You can't change your pitch deck for 1 year. You have no employees. You can only lease your services, etc. Play the game of constraints. I wrote a post. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. The game of constraints, where you try on this idea of running your business with a certain constraint. We have constraint-driven exercises in every training workshop that we do, and they're really valuable at getting people to think creatively about something they thought they knew inside and out.
Yeah, the pandemic was a constraint.
Yeah.
But you can artificially impose constraints to help stir some deeper thinking about your engagement level. So you got to be honest about how engaged you are in the business, at least with yourself. What you don't want to do at the end of this is be running a firm unengaged. That is a terrible experience for employees. All of us have been a part of it. Actually, I haven't, but I know of people who've been a part of a company that was run by somebody who wasn't engaged. So you got to solve that. And if you can't solve whatever caused it, then you kind of have to be open to some radical ideas. These are all silly ideas, but you might come up with your own that might jumpstart things again.
So when you're feeling bored by your firm, disengaged, take these 16 pieces of advice, cut them up into 16 pieces of paper, put them into the magic 8-ball, reach in and grab the piece of advice.
And you have to do whatever you choose.
You have to do it. So go get a job, take a sabbatical, go to school.
And if it doesn't work out, Blair's email address is...
Switch firms with a colleague for a month.
That's my best idea. I wish you'd quit making fun of it.
I still want to know, what was the impetus for this? Like, where did this come from?
I had a client who was unengaged. I haven't told him this yet, but I'm hoping he'll listen so I don't have to address this with him anymore.
It's always a client, right? We're always writing about and then talking about our clients on our podcast without ever naming them. And yes, listener, it's you. It's you we're talking about. Thanks, David. This is great.
Thanks, Blair.
Thank you for listening to Two Bobs with David C. Baker and Blair Entz. Subscribe and learn more at twobobs.com. That's the number 2, BOBS.com.